Welcome to this week's edition of the Lindsey Elmore Show. In today's show, I'll be chatting with Laura Blackburn, Director of Giving at Thinx Period-Proof Panties. She and I will be discussing access to menstrual care products and how we can have a sustainable and easier period. After that, I'll give a bird's eye view of the critical nutrition for a healthy period according to Chinese medicine. Hey, thanks for listening to this brand new show. If you like it, please share it with your friends and let us know what additional topics you'd like us to tackle over on our website. All you have to do is head to www.lindseyelmore.com/podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Now, let's talk to Laura. Welcome to the Lindsey Elmore Show, a podcast that helps you find fulfillment amidst chaos. On this show, I interview thought leaders, doctors, creatives, spiritual gurus, and game changers who inspire you to pursue your dreams, overcome obstacles, and leave your mark. In the 2019 Oscar-winning film, Period, End of Sentence, in the small village of Harpur outside of Delhi, India, women hope to make feminine hygiene supplies easily available and to end the stigma surrounding menstruation. The stigma that they point out in the film is so bad that young boys report that menstruation is a disease, and women often have to drop out of school because of discrimination. The reports are staggering. Worldwide, only 12% of young girls have access to the menstrual care products that they need. You'd think that it'd be better for women living in America, but 26.4 million women living in poverty in America struggle to afford adequate feminine hygiene supplies. 31 states still tax pads and tampons. Food stamps, welfare checks cannot be used for menstrual care products, and 84% of students say that they have either missed class or know someone who has missed class due to lack of access to menstrual care products. There's a growing swell of informed consumers who are horrified at the lack of disclosures about what is in pads and tampons. We find reports of toxins and endocrine disruptors like aluminum, artificial fragrances, pesticides, dioxins, and alcohol, all found in feminine hygiene products. And the Food and Drug Administration does not even require companies to test products for dangerous chemicals. And this doesn't even get into the waste that goes into period care. Every year in the U.S. alone, 12 billion with a B pads and 7 billion tampons end up in a landfill, many of which have plastic applicators that take years, if ever, to biodegrade. Given the fact that 800 million people worldwide are real menstruating humans every single day, it's time for menstruation products to get a serious makeover. I am super excited that I recently switched over from tampons to Thinx Period-Proof Panties and the menstrual cup. And I think it's time to open up the discussion about how we can make period care more sustainable, more accessible, and less wasteful. So it's so exciting to talk to today's guest, Laura Blackburn. She is the director of Give Rise, the Give Back program from Thinx that is focused on normalizing menstrual care through education, advocacy, and access. Laura has 10 years of experience in educational equity and reproductive justice issues. At Thinx, she runs the Everybody Education program to empower adolescents with, praise the Lord, medically accurate language and inclusive information about periods and puberty. She also spearheads Thinx's grassroots activism, which lobbies stakeholders to create more equitable local policies. So, Laura Blackburn, I am so excited to talk to you today.
Yay, it's such a joy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, okay, for someone who has never heard of Thinx, what the heck is period-proof underwear, and why can it help make periods easier for young girls and women?
So Thinx is a little bit like period magic. They look and feel like a regular pair of underwear, yet they absorb up to 4 tampons worth of menstrual fluid.
Yes, and it sounds unbelievable when you first hear it. Okay, so how the heck do they work?
So you can wear Thinx either as a backup to pads and tampons or a menstrual cup. You can also use it as a full replacement depending on your flow. So there is an absorbent layer that fully holds all of your menstrual fluids. Then you, when you're finished with them, toss them in the laundry with your regular underwear. You don't have to worry about any sort of rinsing ahead of time or about your clothes getting dirty or soiled. And then you simply hang them to dry. They're fully reusable and can save, as you said, those pads and tampons from heading into the landfills.
So when I first heard about them, I have to say I was super skeptical. It seems unbelievable that there could be something that actually you could just bleed into them and it not be gross. And I know that that's something women have asked me a lot about, like, does it really work? Is it gross? And so this was the first advancement in menstrual technology since the 30s.
That's right.
So how did this all come about, and how did the technology get so good that it really can replace pads and tampons?
Right. So as you said, this is designed to be the more sustainable solution. It's better for our bodies and better for the planet. So it really came about just through a real world experience of a person, or one of our founders, getting their periods unexpectedly and having to dash off to try to find a pad or a tampon. And it really got her thinking about what are the ways in which we can innovate in this space. As you said, there had been no innovations whatsoever in decades and decades and decades, despite the fact that half the population at some point will get their period. This is a widespread experience that people with periods have. So we are so thrilled that we are the first fully sustainable, reusable pair of period underwear. They're easy to throw on when you are expecting your period and you're not sure it's coming. It really is designed now with our Thinx Super line to be a full replacement for pads and tampons.
And they look cute.
And they look cute.
They look super
It's like a regular
cute
pair of underwear, and we have styles that fit and serve every body. We're really thoughtful about how inclusive we are with our language. So we talk about people with periods, as you said. You're a real menstruating human. So we want to make sure that we have sizes and styles that are inclusive for the experience of all people with periods.
Well, and one of the reasons that I was so inspired to speak with you is because, number one, I'm a huge fan of Thinx. They completely transform your period. But I also, in reading your blog, have been challenged to think about what are all of the issues that face people with periods. So you guys are tackling some potentially controversial issues, because people who are gender fluid, who perhaps even identify as male, sometimes they're putting up with periods. And like, how does that psyche change? And so take us a step back. What the heck is menstrual equity? And how can we recognize the signs of menstrual inequality?
Yeah, absolutely. So this word menstrual equity, I think, is a head scratcher for a lot of folks. It might be a new term. It's something that we have doubled down in our commitment because our company mission is to empower every body through innovative solutions and social change. So really our focus on menstrual equity delivers against this social change mission. So at a very basic level, menstrual equity is the reality that currently our policies and our laws are not built to fully support people with periods. So part of it has to do with a lack of access due to income levels or access to financial resources, which really prevent people from regularly accessing pads and tampons or having even just choice in what they're able to use. That's a really fundamental aspect of having a period, is having choice in the products that you're using. It also has to do with the way that our bathrooms are not set up for us to manage our periods with confidence. We know that most bathrooms have toilet paper, they have soap, but they're not really equipped for if your period comes unexpectedly and you need a pad or a tampon.
Well, and it's astonishing that you can still walk into some bathrooms and like pay $a quarter for a tampon.
Whoever has change on them, first of all, right?
Like, just put the products out there.
That's right.
Because it is a horrifying feeling. I know one time I was in Kuala Lumpur in Chinatown, and so in a very urban area, but a very poor urban area, and I'm walking around and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just started my period. And so then you're like scrambling trying to get to a pharmacy, and then you end up in a bathroom that's dirty, that's just not where you want to be, and it's a horrible feeling. And so I quoted some stats about just how big this problem is.
Right.
What are some other statistics that you know, or some personal stories that you have that can really frame this as every person's problem, not just like, this is a women's health issue that doesn't need to be addressed?
That's right. I'm so glad that you asked that question, because for me, this is something, menstrual equity, that is new to me. I started my career as a 5th grade teacher, and one year had an all-girls class, and one of my girls came to me. She had gotten her period the night before, and her mom had packed her a care package with underwear, with pads, with wipes, and gave her a quick crash course on how to manage her period. She was so proud of the fact that she had that access to a supportive home environment and a supportive school environment. And it really got me thinking, how many of my students don't have that experience?
Yes.
So from that, my co-teacher and I decided that we would always have a box of pads and tampons in our closet so that our students had regular access.
Yeah.
In my role now at Thinx, and with menstrual equity being one of our core priorities in tackling, we did a landscape analysis and saw that there had been no research at a real large scale into the impact of period poverty. So to date, we didn't really understand what the impact of not having regular access to pads and tampons even looked like.
Yeah.
So there were a couple studies out there, one done by a St. Louis team of academics, and they researched sort of the state of affairs for women experiencing homelessness. And for us, and our focus especially on young people, my background as a teacher, understanding that a lot of these anecdotes and stories existed, but we didn't really have the actual data until now. So we teamed up with Period last year on a study called State of the Period.
Oh, wow.
And we studied basically 1,000 teens, ages 13 to 19, and we found some really stark data. So 1 in 5 teens today have either missed class or know someone who's missed class due to a lack of access. Or sorry, that 84% stat, the 1 in 5 is around missing class in particular on their own. 1 in 4 young people have faced significant barriers to accessing period products regularly, and 61% of students have said that they have worn a pad or a tampon for longer than is safe because of a lack of access. So it really puts these young people at risk for infection, at risk for feeling extra added stress, when quite frankly, these young people should just be focused on their learning and succeeding. So for us, the cumulative impact of that year over year is something that's totally unacceptable, and why we're taking a very strong stance and trying to actually shift policy towards being more supportive.
Well, and I know way back when I was practicing pharmacy, and I was on faculty at a school of pharmacy, and I was in charge of the over-the-counter medicine course. And so, of course, I put in a module of like pads, tampons, menstrual cups, condoms, the whole sexual health care products. And I was told, no, we can't teach that class.
Oh, wow. That's a shock.
And I was like, we are training pharmacists to be out in the community. And one of my colleagues actually told me, she's like, that is something your mother teaches you about and no one else. And I was like, God forbid a single dad walk into your pharmacy with their 12-year-old girl, and he's like, I don't know what to tell her. And so I was shocked that even at an institutional level, among healthcare providers, sometimes there is a hesitancy to talk about these issues. So how can parents do a better job of, because I think it's not just access, but there's also just a fear to talk about normal body functions with parents, with children, with teachers, how can we do better about opening up this conversation?
So when we launched Thinx, a main part of our mission was actually to destigmatize this idea of periods. And so in all of our marketing, in our external messaging, we went loud and proud saying the word period, saying the word menstruation, and really trying to shift that culture around this issue. And I think to date, it's been framed and relegated, as you said, as being just a women's issue or a girl's issue. But the fact is, we need every single ally in this fight, whether you're a period haver or not. So for us, it's really just as simple as talking openly about your experience with periods. There's so many great resources that we have launched as well in tandem with Thinx Between, which is our line for young people with periods. So we have a ton of resources on our website that help parents have these conversations with their young people. It's also a major driver of why we wanted to launch the Everybody program. So we know that today only 24 states mandate that sex education even happens. And of that, I think it's only 12 require it to be medically accurate, which is such a head scratcher of, if it's not medically accurate, what on earth is happening?
Teaching?
Exactly.
What are you teaching?
And just knowing how much misinformation there is out there around periods, we wanted to equip teachers with the tools to be able to have those conversations in their classrooms, so that if a young person has an environment that maybe isn't as supportive at home, or their parent or caregiver hasn't approached them about the conversation, they have the information and sort of the questions that they can bring home and have those conversations in the home space and extend what they're learning in school.
Yeah, I mean, it is just astonishing that we just can't call things by normal language.
Right.
Let's just normalize the language, because I've always thought that, when parents beat around the bush and they just kind of are like, oh, I don't really want to talk about sex. I don't really want to talk about reproduction. Children get education from all the wrong places, which additionally puts people at risk. So it is shameful how little education that middle schoolers and even high schoolers get about sex education. And we see serious discrimination. We just a few weeks ago in the news, a young girl goes to her male teacher and says, I need to go to the bathroom. And he's like, no. And she was bold enough to say, no, I'm on my period. Like, I really need to go to the bathroom. And he told her just to hold it in.
So shameful. So shameful.
And that's not the way it works. You can't just hold it in.
That's right.
So what is a young girl to do if she's heard this message and she goes, okay, I have the right to care for my body in this way. And if there is that discrimination, what advice would you give to a young girl?
I think, as you said, it takes a lot of courage to go out there to an adult who may not be sympathetic to what is a normal, basic biological function. So that should be applauded from the rooftops and is incredible. I think what we really prioritize at, especially with our Thinx Between line and with Thinx, just being loud and proud about periods, is something that is already shifting the conversation. So we have incredible nonprofit leaders and thought leaders like Nadia Okamoto, who's the founder of the nonprofit group Period. They're the largest youth-run NGO.
Oh, wow.
So I think what is exciting is that young people have thought leaders in this space to look to as validation for what you're going through is normal. There are resources for you to be able to help. And I know that in similar instances where young people have tried to advocate for themselves at school and they've faced some pushback from the administration, they've engaged in some really powerful grassroots activism. So there was a group of young people out west in Colorado who are trying to advocate for free and easy access to period products within their schools. Their principal pushed back, and so they organized a cookie baking protest.
Oh, my stars.
So I think that was incredible. There are so many ways in which young people can get involved in this. We teamed up last year with 12 different local period chapters across the country and gave them sort of a crash course 101 on community organizing and activism.
Yeah.
And we equipped them with tools like a petition, rallies, how to write a letter to the editor.
Yeah.
And together we were successful in shifting 12 local policies.
Wow.
So I really think that we cannot underplay the value of young people making change. And as adults and as organizations, we can help to amplify that and help to sort of share the spotlight.
Absolutely. So you mentioned a couple of things that are tangible action steps that people can take in their local communities to help eliminate menstrual inequality. And so letters to the editors, shifting policies, like that to me sounds so scary. Like I don't know how to change policy in New York City around menstrual equity. So give us some tangible steps that anyone can do, especially as we're going into an election year.
That's right.
What can we do to bring more awareness to this issue?
So the stakes are high, but the good news is there are some pretty low lift ways that literally everybody can get involved right now. And it starts with just having an open conversation about periods.
Yeah.
If you are a person with a period, it's about sharing your experiences. It's about being loud and proud in whatever way makes sense to you. So you could tweet your support for the presidential candidates to take up this issue on the campaign trail. You can have a conversation with a non-menstruating human about what your experience is like. And for allies, it's about how can I help to create an environment in which people feel comfortable sharing their experiences and that they have access to the right period products. We also have currently, as part of our Thinx 2020 campaign, we also feel like now is the time in our election year to elevate this to the national level. And because it is something that is such a widespread, far-reaching issue, the presidential candidates absolutely must address this. So whether that's in their gender equity platforms or their healthcare platforms, we see menstrual equity as fitting into a variety of spaces. So folks can hop onto our website to sign our petition and add your voice to the chorus of people who are standing together to help to elevate this within the context of the presidential campaign. It can also be as easy as organizing a group of friends and hosting a period kit packing party. Pads and tampons are one of the most utilized items within shelters, yet the most under-donated because this conversation is still new, and often the needs of menstruators kind of come last in regards to if somebody needs a pair of clothes or socks or shoes. Of course, that's necessary, and so are period products. So it can even be hosting a cocktail party where you ask each person to bring a box of pads and tampons and then find a shelter within your local community to pay it forward to.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I heard what you just said, which is they're one of the most needed, but almost never donated. And I remember I was walking around New York and I see somebody has just spilled a box of pads. And I remember picking them all up and putting them, in a place where they would stay dry, because I was like, somebody is going to need these at some point, and someone is going to be so grateful. I mean, I know for me, if I'm on my period, I would much rather have a pad than a pair of socks. Because what do you do if you don't have access to any of the products?
And you do use whatever is available to you in a makeshift moment. So there are people who are using socks, old rags, newspapers, plastic bags, which we know contribute to infections and adverse, just even the inability to be able to manage a basic biological process has so many ripple over effects into your socio-emotional body, into your feelings of stress. So
I mean, it stresses me out just to hear you say that some women are using plastic bags as menstrual care products. That stresses me out.
And we know that students, if there's a lack of access at home or in schools, are bottling up toilet paper or paper towels. So I think for us at Thinx, it's really about how can we be supportive of all people with periods? How is it that we can engage our community in this change making as well? How can we get people even just thinking about this issue of periods and talking about it openly, because then that has such ripple over effects into a teacher then being able to have this be top of mind for their young people, or our lawmakers who are writing bills that will ultimately impact people with periods.
Yes.
So how is it that we can carve out these spaces to make our world more supportive of people with periods?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how do we, because when women do not have adequate period care, we don't get adequate education.
That's
we
right.
We don't get access. It's just another way that women get held back.
That's right. And really an issue of gender equity at large. That's
absolutely.
right. Exactly.
Well, before I let you go, you ready for the lightning round?
I'm so ready.
Okay. All right.
Bring it on.
All right. Here we go. What is your number one strength?
My number one strength is my sense of equity. I'm always thinking about how is it that we can ensure that this world is a more equitable place for everybody.
Yeah. What is the thing that you struggle with the most?
Oh my goodness. Not being able to do enough.
Yeah, that is a true giving
Right.
personality right there. If you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Okay, so because obviously I live in the world of periods, it's don't be weird about periods, okay? I got my period very young.
Yeah.
And it was a real moment of feeling like a loss of my childhood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I think I would just say to that little young person, that little 10-year-old, like, you're gonna be okay. And this is a totally normal, basic experience. It's gonna probably take you some time to figure it out, but just be easy on yourself.
Yeah, it is so scary that first time that you get a period.
Right.
And what is astonishing about the fear is that at least half of the people that you know have also been through this same process.
Yes.
But it's terrifying. You don't want people to know about it. And I know for me, I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to skip school. And my mom and grandmother were just like, you are going to go through this for the next 35 years. Like, you're gonna have to get used to it.
That's right.
So what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? The patriarchy, quite frankly. You know, it feels like a lot sometimes, but I think what brings me some peace of mind at night is knowing that as a company, we're really in the fight to dismantle those systems and help to advance gender equity, specifically through menstrual equity. And just knowing that, like, there's a lot of empowered young people who are stepping up to the plate and really questioning the way that these systems and structures have functioned to date. I'm saying, like, enough is enough.
Yeah, enough is enough. And it just is astonishing how far behind U.S. healthcare is, even compared to the rest of the developed world.
That's right.
And so I honestly think that you specifically, your work, as well as the work of Thinx, is changing the world. And I'm honored to be a part of it and to get to talk about it too, because these issues are super important. Who is your greatest inspiration?
Oh, my mom.
Oh, tell me why. I gotta know.
She's amazing. She is such a powerhouse for pursuing your dreams above all else, and always reminds me to be gentle on myself. This work, especially around activism and social change, can be very emotionally exhausting. And so she always reminds me, first and foremost, to take care of myself and that the rest will follow.
Yeah, when you're pushing boundaries, you're gonna get pushed back.
That's right.
And there are gonna be people that really think you're wrong, and that's tough.
That's tough to push through, but it has not stopped us, certainly, from trying to change the landscape of menstrual hygiene, and from me personally, just as a lifelong activist.
Yeah. What are your favorite self-care tips?
Oh my goodness. I love smelling on a little bit of lavender.
Nice.
I have a bath every night, and that really helps to ground and anchor me. And then I think for myself, it's also in a regular workout. So it's in making sure that I am moving my body, whether it's a power walk out by the river or taking a class at the gym. I think that for me has been instrumental.
Yeah, well, and I think it brings balance into when you have a heart like yours and you just want to give and you want the world to change, you can really string yourself out.
That's right. That's right. Got to take care of yourself.
Totally. Absolutely. All right. Last but not least,
yes.
God to you is?
My community. And being a part of a diverse set of perspectives and really learning from those new folks in my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody go check out Thinx website is shethinks.com. Sign their petition. Let's bring menstrual equity to the forefront. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you, Lindsey.
If you are a real menstruating human, I cannot say enough for how much period-proof panties from Thinx will change your period for the better. Whether you grab a thong for the days leading up to your period or grab a super high-waisted pair that holds up to 4 tampons worth of flow, Thinx gives you the confidence that you need to tackle anything that life throws at you while you're on your period. For me personally, since I switched to Thinx, I find that my periods are less painful, lighter, shorter, and they are most definitely less wasteful. Plus, I just love the mission and vision of the company. All menstruators deserve to have choice, access, and common sense understanding of how to care for themselves when they're on their periods. If you're ready to ditch the pads and tampons and join the revolution, head to www.shethinks.com/Lindsey Elmore to save $10 off of your order. That's www.shethinx.com/Lindsey Elmore to save $10 off of your new favorite pair of period-proof panties. A lot of women dread getting their period every single month, and I've spent some time talking about how Thinx have made my periods better. But here's the thing. Periods should be easy, and women who eat a balanced diet, get adequate exercise, get tons of sunshine, and really work on the emotional components of menstruation very seldom have menstrual problems. At the time of menstruation, we have hormones and emotions, and that can lead to a lot of surfacing of different emotions. And it's important for us to acknowledge those and to really say, this is a part of my natural experience. I value being a woman. I value the fact that I am going through this of actually getting rid of that no longer serves me, and to really allow ourselves to feel the full experience of what it means to be a woman. To support the entire menstrual cycle, we should avoid things that clog up our liver. In Chinese medicine, the liver governs blood flow, and when there's problems with the liver, we end up not having good menstrual periods. We can have cramps, they may be too heavy, they may be full of blood clots, etc. So avoid alcohol, tobacco, coffee, cold-forming foods. We also know that fat intake is very important because our sex steroids are hormones that are made out of fat. So we want to avoid hydrogenated fats, shortenings, most margarines, polyunsaturated cooking oils, and overconsumption of, believe it or not, raw foods and cold foods can make periods worse. And that is because it takes a certain amount of heat in order for us to have an effective period. If you can, avoid fluoridated water because fluoridated water suppresses our thyroid activity, which jacks up our hormonal system in general. And since hormonal balance is critical for having healthy periods, we want to be sure that our thyroid is not throwing off the rest of our entire system. We can reduce the amount of commercial red meats and poultries because these animal products contain residues of sex steroids, and most of the animals that we eat in the food chain are female. And that means that we're going to be getting excessive amounts of animal-based sex steroids when we overconsume red meats or poultries. Over time, oral contraceptives as well as intrauterine devices can also cause menstrual difficulties. So what is some key nutrition that you should keep in mind when you're on your period? First and foremost, we need iron, we need iodine. You're going to be losing blood. That's the whole key of menstruation. And so when we lose blood, we lose iron from our bodies. In order to prevent iron deficiency anemia, take some iron supplementation and perhaps consider using it alongside vitamin C. Vitamin C helps to increase the absorption of iron, meaning that you can have better periods. Iodine is critical for the function of the thyroid, and we've already mentioned how critical thyroid balance is to ensuring that sex steroid balance is in balance. We'll just say it that way. We also need calcium and zinc. Calcium and zinc levels decrease when periods start, and so adding in foods that have high levels of calcium, always remembering that if you are going to increase calcium, you've got to have magnesium to help with the absorption and the utilization of calcium. And so increase the amount of foods in your diets like seaweeds and green vegetables and legumes, which are great sources of calcium that also help to replenish what we're losing during our menstrual flow. We need B vitamins, we need vitamin A, as well as high quality proteins in order to have a harmonious menstrual cycle. These nutrients help the liver to convert hormones that are present before menstruation into less provocative substances, so substances that can be very irritating during the pregnancy. Vitamin B6 as well as vitamin B9 are especially important, so increase the amount of vitamin B6 containing foods. Vitamin A and B6 really strongly, highly concentrated in green vegetables, so a great addition to a healthy period. Keep in mind also that we really need high quality protein, and there is some evidence that reducing the amount of animal-based proteins can mean that you have a healthier menstrual cycle. Don't forget all of the fats. Keeping in mind things like alpha and gamma linoleic acid are really important to prevent the production of inflammatory prostaglandins, and this helps to reduce the amount of pain and cramps that we might feel during our period. Two last things before we go. Honey appears to have a profound effect on regulating the production of inflammatory prostaglandins, and it also really helps us in just herbal teas, having it in hot water. It's an easy addition that can help you to have a smoother period. Vitamin E is essential for keeping the blood slippery. It is a very fatty vitamin, and it really helps to encourage adequate menstrual flow. So what do you do when you're on your period to help you stay healthy? If you've never tried it, there is a combination of 4 herbs in Chinese medicine that are considered to be an invaluable formula for helping to keep the menstrual cycle healthy and really prevent cramps and help to prevent any pain or any excessive bleeding. All you do is use 3 parts of dong quai root, 3 parts of ramana root, 3 parts of peony root, and 1.5 parts of, I don't even know how to say this, I've never tried to say this word, lingustium root. Who knows? 3 parts dong quai, 3 parts ramana root, 2 parts peony root, and 1.5 parts of lingustium root. And all you do is make that into an herbal tea, put a little bit of honey in it, and you're on your way to having a healthy period. The Lindsey Elmore Show is written and produced by me, Lindsey Elmore. Show segments are produced by Sue Procco and Kelsey Lorman. Production design, sound design, and editing is by Jive Media. If you have a question about this or any other episode of the podcast, send us an email to hello@lindseyelmoreshow.com. And hey, since you're still here, take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And while you're at it, go over and follow us on Instagram @Lindsey Elmore Show. This helps us bring the pod to more people.